Good afternoon. I'm excited today to be here to start the Disability Inclusion Podcast this week with an interview with Idan Meir. Idan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I'm Idan. I'm here in the U.S. about a year, originally from Israel, and I've started RightHear about 5 years ago. And usually when I talk about who we are and what we're doing, I start with two facts. May I, Eric?
Please tell us who you work for and what you do.
Yes, so I'm the co-founder and CEO of RightHear. RightHear is a startup company that is started in Israel. Today we have also offices here in the US. I'm in Rockville, Maryland. When we started our journey, we asked ourselves a very simple question of what if signs could speak? How amazing would it be for people who cannot necessarily see them? How amazing would it be for them? And also for me, by the way, which a lot of times I do see those signs, but they're not telling me a lot. And we're probably going to get back to this later. But as I said, Eric, I usually like to start with two facts. One fact is that there are over 100 million Braille signs in the US alone. Wherever you go, you'll find them. So for the listeners, it doesn't matter where you are in the US, and it doesn't matter if it's a small retail or restaurant, or if it's a big airport, hospital, hotel, stadium, you name it, you'll find these Braille signs usually in elevators, restrooms, meeting rooms, etc. So this is one fact. There's a lot of them. The second fact, and most people don't know that, is that about 90, even 95% of the blind community do not know to read Braille at all. All right? That leaves us with about 5 to 10% who do know to read Braille, and they not necessarily knows where the signs are. And for those who are lucky enough to find the sign, they not necessarily want to touch the sign, especially nowadays with COVID-19. And for the brave enough to also touch it, a lot of times the information is not even accurate. So all in all, there is no effective way today for a person with orientation challenges, especially people who are blind or visually impaired, to acquire orientation in a built environment. And this is exactly what's RightHear has built in the past 5 years. We basically built a whole system, and our technology basically allows at the end for the end user to hear audio descriptions through our app. It's a free app, both Android and iPhone. So we could hear audio descriptions of the world around him, like you are at the main entrance to McDonald's, for example. The open hours are Monday to Friday, additional information about where he is. Thirdly, what's around him. So this is where the counter is, the restaurant's in this direction, no matter where he points with his smartphone around him. And more features. It's all in the user's own language and own pace. And it's 100% free for the end user to download and use.
So that's fascinating. I'm curious, are you vision impaired, if you mind me asking?
No. I see clearly. Yeah.
So the obvious question is, what prompted you to be interested in this?
Right. So the story of my life, and I've been asked about it a lot. I always say that the story of my life is that I'm getting lost. Wherever I go, since I was a very little kid, I used to get lost a lot of times. And the frustration of not knowing where I am, not knowing where to go is something that I'm very familiar with. And when we started RightHear, we thought that if we'll be able to solve this orientation challenge that I have, for those that have even more severe challenge in this space, again, people who are blind or visually impaired, or by the way, other challenges that cause them to be even more frustrated from not knowing where they are, if we'll be able to solve it to them, ultimately we'll be able to solve it to a lot of other people, including me. So for me, I feel today that what we're addressing is basically scratching my own itch. And obviously, as we build this, we've got to know a lot of people who are blind and visually impaired, and a lot of them I can call my best friends today. So that's kind of the origin story behind the company.
Is the company a nonprofit or a for-profit company?
We are definitely for-profit. We see two bottom lines in our work. One is the profit, just like any other business. But secondly, and equally important, is the social impact that we're creating. I think what's beautiful about our work and our marketing and sales people know that as well, that every new location that we've turned accessible with our technology, it's not just another deal we've closed, it's another place we've made accessible in the world. And it's really drives the whole team, I believe, not just myself, to have more and more of them accessible with the system. The more we have, not just the more successful business will be, but the bigger impact we'll be able to create around us.
I'm going to take a detour because you told me a number that blows me away, and I want to know more about it. You said 90-95% of blind people cannot read Braille. How, that shocks me because I always assumed all blind people could read Braille. Tell me why that.
Right. So you're not alone with this, Eric. It's a lot of time surprise the other side when we tell this. So there's different reasons, different researches that has been made around it. One of it is the fact that a lot of people from the blind and visually impaired community turn to be blind in the middle of their life, or even in the late stages of their life, in the elderly age. Getting to know or learning Braille at the age of 30, for example, is extremely difficult. You have to develop a very soft sensitivity on your fingertips to be able to pick it up. In addition to that, we're all aware of the audio revolution around us. Siri is talking to us all the time. And if in the past, to be able to read a book or anything else, a blind person would need to know Braille. There is no other way. Today, there are way more other ways that are available and accessible to him. So I guess that's inferred that as well. I would say, just to make clear, I don't think that Braille is going to disappear anytime soon, and this is good because there's a lot of cases where Braille is a good medium, for a lot of people. When it comes to wayfinding, I would say there is a consensus today that for wayfinding purposes, Braille is just not effective. So while we are seeing it everywhere, in my humble opinion, this is not the reasonable accommodation that needs to be made.
You just said wayfinding. Can you define what you mean by that?
Yeah, so wayfinding is all around, finding your way around, right? So we all see signs wherever we go, right? We see the sign of the logo of the store. We see the signs of where the elevators are, or the restrooms, or check-in, wherever we are. These signs have a lot of thinking behind them. They have to be in a certain size. They have to be in a certain contrast. They have to be in certain places. So there's a whole design and planning work that is being done before these signs are on the wall. Unfortunately, up until today, the only way to make these signs accessible, again, for people with sight loss, was putting Braille on it. That's what the recommendation about 30 years ago from the ADA. Today, it's 2022. There are just way better options, and I think it's about time that we'll see more of them out there. I'm very proud, by the way, with RightHear. We're just doing our first steps here in the US, but globally, we're in over 2,000 locations around the world, mostly in Israel, but also in Europe. And I can name a few of the brands that we already, like McDonald's, right? All of McDonald's in Israel, all of Pizza Hut in Israel. Microsoft has started to expand it to more and more of their offices, not also outside of Israel, in Dublin, for example. And yeah, we definitely see brands or an enterprise that cares more about it, implementing it, adopting it, and promoting the importance of it with their colleagues.
So give me an example, let's say, of what I would experience if I walked into McDonald's or Pizza Hut or something. What happens and how does it work?
Yeah, so basically your experience as a user would start at home. You'll just download the app. It's a free app, as I said, the Android and iPhone. It's in your own language. We currently support 26 different languages. This is the most popular languages in the world. In the app, you'll be able to see all the different locations that are accessible for you in your area. So assuming it's a McDonald's restaurant, again, in your street, you'll be able to find it in the app. Then once you'll tap on it, you'll be able to simulate that location. In other words, building a mental map of that place even before arriving there. That's reduced the anxiety. Let's build the confidence to actually go there. And the app will also ask you, how would you like to go there? That could be done through our outdoor GPS experience. That could also be done through Uber or Lyft. We already have such integrations with those public transportation apps. And once you actually arrive there, this is, I think, where the real magic of RightHear came into play. When you arrive to, in this case, McDonald's, you'll hear you are at the main entrance to McDonald's. So this is the answer of where am I? Then what is here? So it might be, again, this one is kosher or not kosher. This one is, the open hours are Monday to Friday, this hour to that hour, whatever the facility decides to put into this. Thirdly, is that no matter what the user is pointing with his smartphone, 360 degrees around him, it will let him know what is there in what distance. So just in front of him, it might be the counter. To the counter, continue this direction for another 10 meters or feet. And to another direction, it might be the restrooms or something else. There will always have more features into the app. I won't get all of them today, but the idea is really to provide independence. So the end user can actually feel confident going places as well as independent wherever it is there.
Can you play it?
That answers. Oh yeah, let me try to demo it here. Hold on. So I'm in Rockville. I'm gonna put it in the pace that the listeners will be able to listen, and then I might put it in the pace that actually most of our users are listening to this. So here we go.
My current location is 259 Congressional LN, Rockville. Heading east. Around me.
So I just revealed where exactly I am, and wherever I'm pointing now, the different directions might tell me what is there. So in this direction specifically,
Lanjo House Assisted Living Center is about 637 meters.
Pretty far. And if I'll put another direction,
is about 172 meters in this direction.
And obviously there are different things around me wherever I point it to. Oh, this is something else.
6 kilometers in this direction.
So let me just, Eric, maybe for the listeners, I think it's might be interesting. Put it in for a second, the speed that many of our users are actually listening to.
Sure. Can you turn? Are you able to turn it up a tiny bit more?
Turn it up?
Yeah, volume.
Sure.
Thanks.
So here it is.
My current location, 361 Congressional Land, Rockville. Heading east. Around me. Congressional Land, Street. 11 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
Did you understand anything?
That's actually how fast I talk normally. I have to slow down for the podcast. That's fascinating. Why is that? Why is it speaking so fast?
So it is when one sense is we're losing one sense or decreasing one sense, the others are getting better. So the best way to explain it is, I guess, the listening faster. Or many of them are listening faster. I usually give the example of Adi. Adi is one of my good friends and one of our advisors. He's a software engineer, so he's not just using apps; he's developing the apps we're all using. And he happened to be blind from birth. To be able to develop an app with code, working with code, you have just to have it faster than the way we're listening to. And this is basically the way the pace that he's usually listening to. And it's pretty amazing to see that.
Wow. Okay, so you're just to tie it into what I do. I represent employees, mostly federal employees, who request reasonable accommodation and other things that relate to their disability. Is this a product that I assume it is? But tell me how it's been used to assist someone with doing the essential functions of their job.
I love this question, Eric, and thank you for asking this. There's a lot of discussions around employment of people with disabilities and what the different reasonable accommodations that need to be in place around that. I always said that even if whatever workplace it is, and I'll give Microsoft as a great example of that, because I truly think that Microsoft is a great leader when it comes to accessibility and inclusion in general. Probably all, I would say carefully, but if not all, so probably most, that's for sure, most of the software that has been developed by Microsoft, it doesn't matter if it's Word, Excel, Windows, it doesn't matter, they're all accessible in a pretty high standard. And therefore employees can work, right? In Microsoft, regardless of their disability whatsoever. But Microsoft also realized that for an employee to come to work in their offices, he would need to find the restrooms by himself. So he could feel his self-esteem, so he could be independent, so he could feel confident actually starting to work in an unfamiliar environment like Microsoft Office building. So they installed our system at their offices, not all of them yet, of course, just in a few of them at the moment, but they are making this as a reasonable accommodation for their employees and visitors in general. And I think, thinking about reasonable accommodation in the workforce, I think that making sure that everyone can find their way around independently is key. It's even in some cases more important than other accessibility features, because we're all still humans. We're still physical, bodies moving around in space. If not all of us could feel confident and independent doing that, how can we expect people to come and work with us?
Wow. So I'm curious. You told me that you were in the Army. Was that the Israeli Defense Force?
Yes, correct.
So the obvious question I have is this something that you've shared with them and that they've taken an interest in at all?
Yeah, we are in conversations with them. Obviously, I cannot elaborate too much about that, but I would say that when you're thinking or when looking forward about these technologies, and not just for military use, but in general perspective, right? As I said maybe in the beginning, when we started RightHear, we asked ourselves, what if signs could speak, right? But what if doors could speak? What if ADMs could speak? What if bus stops could speak? What if other IoT that were around us could speak? So guess what? They do have a mouth now. They do have a mouth. They do have things to say, by the way, a lot. It's just about us as a society to start listening to this and making sure the communication is there for the equality, inclusion, and accessibility of the whole.
Wow. Oh, so you got me fascinated by something. You know how there's this whole idea now that people watch like Netflix and other things, and they put on the closed captions, even though they're not. There's no site. Do you hear of people using your device who are not blind?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that could be. You know what? I'll give you an example. That could be someone on a scooter in the city driving around. Riding around. And you want to be holding, and not holding his phone. You want to be focused on where he's riding to, and if you could get the directions in his ears, that's helpful. You don't need to see anything else than that. I would also add to that a lot of when I talk about it, there's a lot around the people who are blind or visually impaired, but there are other audiences that are using it as well. Think about people with cognitive disability like dyslexia. They might. There's a lot of them, right? The thing, even going to your building, they might see at the ground floor the directory and see that's Eric's office at the 10th floor, for example, but they might not necessarily be able to read it. So there's a lot of text going on there. If they could hear it and in their own language, so let's talk about language barriers. We all have language barriers, right? We all have some language barriers, depends where we are. So absolutely, this is maybe starting right now with focusing people who are blind or visually impaired, but we're definitely not planning to stay only there.
Wonderful. All right, we have 1 minute left. I always like to ask this question. Is there this is about you now, a certain person or a certain book or something that's inspired you in your life that you would want to share with other people?
Wow. I think there's a lot of people, right? And it's hard to choose. I would say that I'm feeling grateful that I'm in this business, because in the past 2 years, COVID hit the world, and a lot of businesses has been hurt from that. What drives us to work harder and faster and getting our wins in the past 2 years is actually our users, our community, hearing from them the value that it generates for them and their independent living. The fact that a lot of them not leaving their house without it is what drives us to wake up in the morning. So they're basically my inspiration in this.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on. I wish you the best.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much for the opportunity.